So let us begin verses summarizing the parameters of the 8 consciousnesses. And hopefully let us wrap up completely the 8 consciousness study. We've been studying it for 2 years already, off and on. And maybe today we can finalize it. We've been looking at Yogacara, the study of consciousness, or Yogacara, from 9 perspectives. Today, we would like to take a look at the 8th and the 9th, the final 2, spiritual transformation towards enlightenment, and which leads sentient beings to this kind of practices and promotion and preaching, you use another word for it, but leads sentient beings to enlightenment. So we have been talking about the last 2. That's the perspectives we look at, Yogacara. Yogacara is the word for the study of consciousness too. What is Yogacara? Yogacara, what is yoga? Because we always say we want to practice yoga, and people say yoga now is used as a common word for improving health. But yoga is not just for health. Health is the surface, it's the physical body. Not only do we put importance on improving health, what is more important is improve the internal, the mental, the mind. So not just the surface, the inner mind, that is very important. One cannot change physiologically the body without changing the mind. So what is yoga? Yogacara. What is yoga? Yoga is a Sanskrit word, and if you take a look at the Sanskrit dictionary, it means union, harmony. It is in union, it is in harmony. Are we in harmony? We're not. That's why we need yoga. What is chara? Chara is to walk it, to practice it. And yoga also means, in addition to harmony and union, it also means to subjugate oneself, one's mind, to discipline one's mind, to control one's mind, to correct one's mind, and bring it to harmony. Our mind is not in harmony. Some people say, no, I'm in harmony, I haven't gone crazy, I'm okay, I'm normal. But if we look at what is normal from the perspective of Yogacara, no one is normal. You know why no one is normal? Some people maybe are more abnormal and some people are more normal. When we say normal, we arrive at purification of all our senses. We cannot claim ourselves to be normal if we are still greedy, if we still have jealousy, hatred, vengeance, depression, anxieties, you name them. We have a lot of mental afflictions, and we can't classify ourselves as normal. The degree of normality, it depends, differs from person to person. So, Yogacara, that's what it means. Not just for health. Yoga is not just for health. It's to harmonize the mind, the mental mind, the mentality with the body, or we harmonize with the universe. In a macro sense, harmony in the universe. In a micro sense, individual is how to achieve that harmony of your mind with externalities. And so Yogacara is meant to be applied as a meditative practice, a knowledge to thoroughly understand consciousness. How do you think? A Yogacara is to study the mind, is to cleanse the mind. Every day we say we want to take a bath. You're just cleansing the body. But have you ever thought of, I need to cleanse my mind too? Is our mind always clean? If you're always clean, you won't have mental afflictions. You won't have jealousy, hatred, anxiety, greediness. You don't have that. But we only think about taking a bath to cleanse the body externally. We never thought of cleansing the mind. We need that. Just now we have half an hour to cleanse our mind. Have you been cleansing your mind though? What do you do when you're meditating in there? Your mind is still desultorily wandering in every direction. You thought about the past, you thought about the future, you have anxiety for the future, you have attachment to the past, and you're not concentrating, you're not focusing. So that's the reason why we say we want to focus first, because our mind have been always wandering all over the place, one thought after another, non-stop, we call it the monkeying mind. We never stop. We hop from one branch to another branch. This branch is called jealousy, this branch is called depression, that branch is called hatred, this branch is for greediness. You hop from greediness to hatred to anxiety to all these. But sometimes you hop to good branches. Consideration, compassion, kindness. Sometimes you hop to good branches too. Not just negative though. Sometimes you're positive. So, the final goal of a Yogacharan, one who practices yoga, is a complete transformation of consciousness, of our mind, into wisdom. So in the perfect clarity of enlightenment, there is total awareness and complete understanding which subsumes our ego, our I, our self, and bring it to perfection, and bring it to get out of samsara. When we bring it to perfection, which we call nirvana, we'll get out from samsara. We'll get out from life and death, rebirth. We'll get out from there. So that after this body is shed off, we still have to get rid of this body. No exception. When we die, then we leave this body. This is not your final body. This is a reincarnated body because of the karmic energy that you created previously. Finally, you have to let this body go. And then you roll into the next body. The Buddha said, don't roll into the next body in the process of samsara again. You're going through the same suffering again. When this body is gone, don't continue this samsara, life and death. We go into nirvana. What is nirvana? Well, it takes time to know about it. We have consciousness. Everybody has consciousness. No exception. Unless you're unconscious. Even if you're unconscious lying in bed, you still have that consciousness retained in you. Otherwise you won't be living. But you are more or less unconscious. But assuming that everybody is conscious, but the conscious mind is not the pure mind. It's the conditioned mind. It's the polluted mind. All of us, our mind is polluted. Just like our body is. Our skin, you wash it off with soap, you wash it off with whatever you want to call it. It's just clean on the surface. Inside your body, there's bacteria, fungus, all the undigested food, all the feces in intestines. It's not clean. You may think it's clean, but it's not clean. So the consciousness that we have is the polluted, conditioned mind. Why do we say it's conditioned mind? Because we perform, it is performing according to causality, causes and effect. That we already have covered. And then there's also the absolute enlightened mind, which we call we call it, for the purpose of calling it, nirvana. Because conceptually we need a language to call it. But it's only a language that we call it. It's beyond language, beyond the conscious mind. But for the sake of calling it, we call it nirvana. There's no other term to call it. We are in samsara, which is a retribution process, mainly occurs due to the ripening of the karmic seeds of the eight consciousness. And this karmic seeds, this behavior, speech, thoughts, mislead us to attach and crave to all objects of external world through the perception, through our perceptual five consciousnesses: eye, ears, nose, body, tongue and body, and the interaction with the sixth consciousness, which we already have learned, and the seventh consciousness believes in itself and attaches to the karmic seeds of the eight consciousnesses as objects. Enlightenment requires an internal transformation of the consciousness into the great perfect wisdom, great perfection, perfect wisdom. We need to transform our consciousness, our tainted, polluted consciousness, into pure wisdom. How do we do it though? How do we transform our consciousness into enlightenment? Remember, we have been studying it only conceptually, and we practice it too at the same time. But usually, we spend much more time in the conceptual understanding than in the practice itself. In other words, we always talk about it, but we never walk the board. We're only talking about it all the time. Because you spend your time. What do we spend our time? Every day. Eating, going about, doing various things, but we never contemplate within, to reflect, to meditate. How much time we spend on meditation every day? Some people never meditate. Some people 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour. So when you meditate, that means you bring your conceptual understanding into a practice of purification. But how often do we do that? Some people never know that they should purify their mind. They don't know the problems. Not to say practicing to purify it. They don't even know how to do it, when to do it, what's the meaning of it. They don't even know. Now we know, right? Now we know that we need to change. It's never too late. We need to change. How do we do it? Usually we only have the conceptual understanding of it, and we never practice it. And when we say, by applying Yogacara philosophy to everyday activities, we can replace subjective concepts with objective thinking about a consciousness, guided by precepts, samatha and vipassana, or guided by vinaya, concentration, and wisdom. We will reduce the burden of our retribution, stop creating unwholesome karma, nurture wholesome karma, and gradually reduce our attachment to self and craving. We understand that. We've been talking for 2 years. Conceptually, we understand all that. But have we walked the board? Have we walked it? Have we strived out the first step, continue walking the spiritual path of purification? How many people are doing that? Very few. They may walk for a little while, a few steps, and they divert into the role of confusion again, the role of greediness, the role of drinking, misconduct, lying, name them, all this diversion into misdeeds. You may not even know that you're doing misdeeds. You think you're all right. You think killing animals for food is right. You think that sexual misconduct is right. We think that being greedy about fame, reputation, and money is right. We think all of these, we think that they are right. We are right. We're doing it right. Okay. Application. transform the sixth consciousness into wisdom of cognition, transform the seventh consciousness into wisdom of non-self, transform the eighth consciousness into wisdom of great perfection, and then transform the first five consciousnesses into wisdom of helping all sentient beings in their transformation. How do we do the sixth consciousness? The mano consciousness that we've been learning. We spent about at least 50 hours on the sixth consciousness already. 50 hours, 50, just on the sixth consciousness. The sixth consciousness becomes the wisdom of wonderful contemplation, because when in your meditative practice, if you use the sixth consciousness effectively, skillfully, with wisdom, then you actually can eliminate the self, the ego. And then you also eliminate attachment to dharmas, attachment to views. Everybody has an internal commentator in themselves. Everything they see with the lenses they have selected for them to see. You always attach your own internal comments to everything you see. Like seeing a ball game. You're an internal commentator. You give comments to every ball game. Every ball game, every internal commentator is different. I like this league. I like New York. I hate Detroit. So New York, everything New York is doing in hockey game is good, and Detroit is always bad. You know, you always attach your internal commentary to everything. So, but if you skillfully do this contemplation, you eliminate the self, the ego. And you also eliminate your attachment to views. Simply put, that's the sixth consciousness doing. The seventh consciousness becomes the wisdom of equality, with the sixth consciousness in the process of attaining the above, in the process of eliminating the self, eliminating the dharma attachment. At the same time, it purifies the ego of the seventh consciousness. And then the eighth consciousness becomes the great perfection wisdom. This happens when the seventh consciousness is purified. This wisdom is in perfect nirvana. And then the fourth, the five perceptual consciousnesses become the wisdom of successful performance in enlightening all beings. The eighth consciousness, once purified, can use and cause the five perceptual consciousness to enlighten all others. We must use our sixth consciousness skillfully, with wisdom. That's what you're doing when you're meditating. When you are meditating, first you gather up your focus, and then you use your wisdom to detach, or to use a commonly used word, to detox, detoxification, right? To detox your mentality, to detox detox your mentality. We detox the body, but we don't detox the mind. We must detox the mind too, not just the body. When you are doing yoga, you always think of, do I have a better body? Do I have health? Am I attractive enough? Can I age slowly? You're always thinking about how to give attraction to the opposite sex. You always think about how to make you healthier so that you can live longer, to gain more enjoyment and pleasures in your senses. And so that you can gain more wisdom, you can gain more money, you can live longer. But it does not matter how long you live, you still have to die. Say if you are, sometimes I'm thinking and I have an imagination. If there is a deity who can say, how long do you want to live? Say, I want to live to 200 years. Living to 200 years old is an agony. You know why? All your friends died. All your friends, your relatives, everybody died, and you live until 200 years old. In this polluted body, in this polluted consciousness, if you live forever in pure wisdom, that would be a blessing. But if you live in a polluted mind, in a body that's aging, finally, it's a suffering. It's not a blessing. But if you can use this body to purify your wisdom so that you can get rid of this karmic body and get into that which we call Buddhahood, for the sake of calling it. We don't actually have the reality of that yet. We only can understand it conceptually. So this is the process that we transform our consciousness. Every one of these require a lot of explanations, which you already have done for 2 years. But something could be very interesting in there. We always think about, how come there are miracles? How come there are, in the lower level, the deities, and then the bodhisattvas and the Buddha? How come there are saviors, we call it? Some people call them saviors, bodhisattvas. How come there are people like that? Bodhisattvas will try to help. Why there are miracles? Why did the Buddha come back to this world? Why did the Bodhisattva come back to this world to enlighten beings? Let's take a closer look at the fourth one. To understand why the 5 perceptual consciousnesses, once purified, can perform miracles to enlighten others. Remember, a bodhisattva is not to enlighten oneself. They aim at enlighten all the other folks, helping others, because they're not self-centered anymore. They don't have an ego-differentiated self anymore. It subsides already. The ego is gone. When the ego is gone, you're always thinking of the mass. You're always thinking, this guy who's suffering, this body who is suffering, is the same as my body. So when he's suffering, I'm suffering too. So he always aimed to help. That's compassion. That's what we call compassion. So let's get a little bit more close into the 3 wisdoms. We well know that there are 3 kinds of wisdoms: applied wisdoms, original wisdom, and subsequently attained wisdom. And what is applied wisdom? Applied wisdom is what we apply our practices to, our conceptual understandings to, and achieve applied wisdom. Through the diligent and persistent practice of Vinaya, meditation, and cultivation of wisdom, Jie, Ding, Hui, the practitioners become successful in the elimination of self and the elimination of attachment to dharmas. Applied wisdom is through practice. How long should be the practice? Many, many lifetimes. Could be hundreds and thousands and billions of lifetimes of accumulated practices. The fact that you come to this temple today to maybe to pick up a little bit of knowledge of meditation, or even to meditate for 5 minutes, when you come to think of it, there must be a reason. Nothing happened without a reason. The fact that you're coming today to meditate and think about, oh, I want to acquire wisdom, I want to purify myself, I want to learn about it, is not without a reason. There must be a cause for it. We call it causality. Assuming that causality, cause and effect, is a very complicated philosophy. We cannot, there's no beginning and there's no end to it. The fact that you come here, assuming that this coming here, per se, this presence here, if we cut the waterfall and say, this waterfall is incessant, but we cut it as this point this is the ending point, there must be a previous cause. So if we say that, assuming that this is the ending, just an assumption, there's no ending. Because this causality could go on and on and on for many lives. Assuming that this is the effect, the fact that you're coming to this temple to meditate for 5 minutes, This is the effect. What's the cost of it? There's no effect without cost, right? What's the cost? Can you trace the cost? Can you meditate on the cost? If we meditate on the cost, we say, okay, if coming here to meditate and listening to this monk talking is the final product, is the result. When did I come here? I woke up this morning. I had nothing else to do. And then last night, I was on the internet and I found this temple had meditation class. So I come to this temple. So what did I do? I woke up in the morning, nothing else to do. Okay, maybe I should go to the temple for meditation. So I start my car, I ignite my car. My car works. Sometimes my car doesn't work. My car works, and then I drive, oh, I'm on time. All these causes and reasons put together so that you can be here. Any one interruption, you can't be here. You ignite your car, oh gee, I forgot to put gas on. Or a phone rings, and my girlfriend said, why don't we go to McDonald's for breakfast, White Spot for breakfast, and then you stop, right? There's so many causes put together that come to a fruition that you come here today. Nobody can argue no for this. There's causality. You want to pass examination, you got to study. I'm still looking for that book, as I always said, how to pass the examination without studying hard. Studying hard is the cause, one of the causes. Past examination is the result. No one can pass the examination without studying, without going to the class, without registering. So that's the cause and effect. So what's the purpose of knowing that? Knowing that is a very powerful scheme in your mind. Then you know that you have to build up causes for your success. You're building up causes not for your success, but for your failure. Usually people are doing that. They are building up, accumulating causes for misdeeds, for destruction, for harmfulness, for disturbance, for depressions, for anxiety, for hatred, for greediness. All right, so the applied wisdom, you have to do it yourself. You have to walk it. You have to practice it. Before practice it, you have to have conceptual understanding of it. Don't just lie in the conceptual understanding stage and stop in there. All right, and then you have, once your applied wisdom is successfully applied and you already have eliminated yourself, your ego, and you have eliminated your attachment to views completely, that takes a long time. Then, when applied wisdom is attained, the original wisdom spontaneously reveals itself. We already have the original wisdom, you know. It's just that wisdom has been polluted. It's just like we're a big mirror which reflects everything in the whole world. But that big mirror has been covered up by dirt and dust, by greediness, hatred, vengeance, and all that. And now, because of the applied wisdom, you are eradicating, you're rubbing off all this dust and dirt. When this dust and dirt is rubbed off, it's clean, it's mopped out, then the reflectability is all revealed. And that reflectability is the original wisdom that you already have. Everyone has that original wisdom in you, in one's consciousness. So everyone can become the Buddha, not just the Buddha. Everyone can become the God. Everyone has that God in one's consciousness. It's just your God has been covered up by all our mental defilements, we call them, which were accumulated to cover the reflectability. So the original wisdom is absolute nirvana, completely pure, beyond consciousness and eternity, and all mental afflictions are gone if the original wisdom is revealed. Mental afflictions are dust and dirt on the mirror. If the reflectability is all revealed, there's no more dust and dirt, no more mental afflictions, no more defilements. The success in non-self contemplation results in purification of the 7 consciousness and the great perfection wisdom of the 8. So in other words, when your original wisdom is revealed, you are in nirvana. You become the Buddha, for example, ultimately. When you become the Buddha, when you become a Bodhisattva, close to become a Buddha, then out of compassion, you will not leave your folks behind. You are like Buddha 2,600 years ago. He came back to the world to introduce methods for purification. When he's coming back to the world, he doesn't have to, but he wanted to create a body. He wanted to create scenarios that he would be reborn, going to babyhood, being a teenager, adulthood, etc., etc., to show, to live with us. In other words, assuming that the world is a prison, we are living in a prison within seed freedom, but there were guys who are already out. And when that guy is out in the free world, he wants to come back to save all those folks who are convicts. So somehow maybe he may commit a little bit of crime so that he can get into the prison. And then once you get into the prison, he starts to transform people in the prison. He's coming back to the prison to transform. Just like the Buddha 2,600 years ago, he's coming back to the prison to appear as a Buddha, to introduce methods of transformation. He already has revealed his original wisdom, but he wants to create scenarios through subsequently attained wisdom. So the enlightened saint, once original wisdom is attained, will create out of original wisdom, subsequently attained wisdom as expedient means to enlighten others. He will show to all sentient beings how to practice in order to get out of samsara and reside in nirvana, how to transform wisdom. That's the reason why we listen to all these. This is subsequently attained wisdom. What we are studying now is through language, conceptual language. The language itself is just a means, not the end. The end is the revelation of the original wisdom. But we have to apply our efforts to it to attain applied wisdom. And once the applied wisdom is successful, we want to go back to prison to save all those folks who are still suffering. Millions and millions of folks are still suffering because he's been through it. He's been through it and he wants to come back. Not just the Buddha. There's so many saints in this world who are coming back for their folks. Not only in the form of religion. Maybe Lincoln, in the form of a president, came back for emancipation of slaves. Maybe there are doctors who came back as doctors without boundaries to save victims who are suffering from poor health. So that's the reason why there were people like Norman Bethune of Canada or Albert Schweitzer of Sweden, who came back not for making money, not for reputation, just to save. And there was also Mother Teresa of the Roman Catholic coming back as a lady who saved victims in India. So these are bodhisattvas who subsequently create wisdom through all these changes, through reincarnations. They already are out of reincarnation, but they want to get back to the present and spread the gospel, using that word from other religion, to spread the truth, to spread, I don't know how to call it, nirvana, so that people understand, to get out from prison. It's not easy to get inmate prisoners out from prison. because they haven't seen the free world. They were born in it. They haven't seen the free world. They have to be told how to get out from prison into the free world. We are bounded by our desires, bounded by our greediness, hatred, to be always staying in prison. We want to break through the cocoon of mental defilements and want to fly out like a butterfly. We don't want to be a caterpillar always bounding himself in a cocoon, never get out. But you must know how to bite. You must know how to get through the, metamorphosis of change, changing yourself. Do you want to change yourself, or you still want to be in a cocoon, to be bound by the thread that you throw out to bind yourself? We're always living in the cocoon of mental defilements. We cannot get out from our own cocoon. We want to get out. We're not. You may think that your cocoon is your comfort zone, but it isn't. So, we have learned for, 2 years, off and on. I don't know the number of hours, maybe more than 200, 300. And what have we got? Have we changed? Have we determined to do it? Or are we just talking about it? Or it's difficult to practice it? It is extremely difficult to practice it. I just gave an example. Abstain from killing animals for food. It appears to be easy, but it's difficult. Can you get away from meat eating? You can't, because you're so used to this human custom, human habits of killing. You even argue that animals are meant to be killed for food, for humans. You even argue that seal should be killed for their fur. Mink should be smoked to death for the fur. That's our argument. All these are wrong. All these are killing. What do we do? What's the karmic energy we created? We usually created karmic energy out of 3 sources: the body, the mouth, and the mind, the brain. The body, how do we create karmic energy from the body? How do we create karmic energy from the body? Body means action, behavior. Our actions brings up karmic energy. Now, what did our body do? Basically, if we're only looking at if we look at, first of all, the bad side, the negative side of it, what kind of behavior? Killing, sexual misconduct. What else? Stealing. If we just categorize it broadly. Of course, sometimes we do acts that are not killing, not lying, not stealing. But if we do negative karmic energy, that our behavior performs what? Killing. You are supporting killing because you're not vegetarian yet. You're indirectly supporting the slaughterhouses to do their job. If you don't buy from, I can't mention names. If you don't buy from supermarkets all this meat, you think they will kill animals for you? Won't. So you are indirectly supporting killing. And there's other behavior. So karmic energy is created out of the body, which means the behavior that you've been performing. Not only through the body, through the what? What's the next one? Through the mouth. Your speech. What did your mouth do? What did your speech do? Lying, cursing, what else? Double tonguing, flattery. Our mouth has been creating a lot of karmic energy. sometimes positive and sometimes negative. You analyze your speech to yourself. How much energy you created out of, how much negative energy you created out of the mouth. How much positive energy you created out of the mouth. Did you curse? How much time you spend in really telling the truth of everything? How much time you spend in really praising people who have done the right thing, or double turning on people who have done the right thing and saying that it's wrong, or out of jealousy you want to disparage people, say negative things about people, or how much flattery you put in your speech, how much lying you have done, how much cursing. Did you curse? So we create a lot of karmic energy out of the mouth. Not God, you yourself. And how much energy is created out of the mind, which you can't see outside, but you're really working with the mind. Thoughts. What kind of thought we have? If we can summarize thought, we say thoughts on the negative side can be summarized as greediness, hatred, and ignorance. How much greediness you have? How much ignorance? Sometimes we are not greedy, sometimes we are considerate, sometimes we are altruistic, we're not egoistic, but how much time is on the positive side and how much time is spent on the negative side? So think about all these problems. Today is like a summary for a conclusion for Vijnana Matra, and conceptually we understand how consciousnesses work. There are 8 consciousnesses in us. We already have understood how each one works. The eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, and body consciousness. How do they work? And then the mano consciousness, which is the thinking consciousness, and then the 7 consciousness, which is the ego consciousness, and then the storage consciousness, which is alaya consciousness. All these we already have studied. And we have studied also how do they appear, how do they get out of control, and what are the ways to control them. We also have understood, we also have studied, we have the 8 consciousnesses in us, and when consciousness are created, not just the consciousness themselves are created, because we call each consciousness a king. And a king has a lot of ministers helping to perform. And each consciousness is a king, and each consciousness has its own ministers to help it to perform. Some ministers are good ministers, some are bad ministers. The first 5 consciousnesses, the eyes, ear, nose, and all that, have 18 ministers helping it. The mano consciousness have 51 ministers helping it. And out of the 51 ministers, 26 are bad ministers, and only 11 are good ministers. Imagine how we always perform bad deeds, because we have more unwholesome ministers helping than the wholesome ones. In other words, we don't have a majority government in our mind. We have a minority government. Who elected these ministers? You yourself elected your own ministers. So we have concomitant mental functions helping all these consciousnesses to perform. And in meditation, what do? In each session of meditation, we're actually training our mind to be mindful when all these ministers are working negatively. When our ministers of greediness is active, we say, hold it. When our cruel ministers, when our jealousy ministers are working, we say, hold it. We don't want you to perform. So in doing meditation, we actually, what is Yogacara? When I started the first session, we say, yoga is to bring everything in harmony, to bring everything in discipline and under control. Chara is you work at it. You work at it to bring your mind, your body, and everything in harmony. Have we been doing that? We watch not just the action and the speech, we watch our own thought. We start from our own thought. We want to change something, we change from our thought. We want to change the world. You can't use discipline to change citizens. You have to change their mind. We have to educate their mind, not just to discipline with actions, with violence, with violent discipline. You can only change people willfully, considerably, with mind changing, not just violent discipline.